Yeah, you really have. It's pretty cool. Well, I'm here basically to share my testimony with you. And there's always good news and bad news when it comes to testimonies. I'll try to make this brief. I was not a murderer, so my testimony is probably pretty similar to a lot of people that are in this room. I did write down some notes because Mark gave me a timeline, so I'm going to try and stick with the timeline. I've got to tell you, growing up, I always believed in God. I don't ever remember a time in my life when I did not believe in God. But I grew up a Jehovah's Witness. And because growing up in the world of the Jehovah's Witnesses, I was very confused about Jesus and who Jesus was. Had no clue. Was he a perfect man? Was he a God, little g? Was he somebody that God had perfected along the way? I had no idea. I was pretty clear because the JWs are pretty clear on who God is. And you grow up fearing God, but this whole Jesus thing, I had no clue what that was at all. Zero knowledge of that. Good news of that all ended my junior year of high school, because that's when I got kicked out of the JWs. Now, we all laugh about that, and I used to hold that in my classroom against the kids. Hey, I got booted out when I was a junior in high school. What did you do? Oh, I'll never tell you. Well, I'm going to tell you guys. It was nothing special. I was just being a kid. That doesn't mean I was breaking any laws. I played on a football team, wrestled, did this, did that, student congress, and my name would appear in the paper every now and then. And that was just too worldly. Your priorities are wrong. You need to be knocking on doors. You need to be more in your Bible. You need to be, and they had a whole list of things. So I was uninvited to go to their congregations. They wouldn't let me in anymore. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and continue my life. And so that's, again, I felt like I knew who God was. I had great fear and respect for God, very confused. So between the ages of about 17 and 24, I was living that typical sinner's life. I was lustful. I wasn't a murderer, but I was lustful. I had a foul mouth. For me, the big thing that's inside of me was I lived a very envious life of other people, or covetousness. And I knew that about myself. I knew what was going on inside of me big time. I always wanted what the other person had. That was a big part of my life. But again, I wasn't a murderer. I just, thought I'm basically a good person. I have no clue who Jesus is, but I believe in God. Everything's good. I also had a propensity to follow cult-like groups, Mormons, Seventh-day Adventists. The one thing they all have in common with the JWs was that they're not very clear on who Jesus is. They're not very clear there if you really look at them. They have an emphasis on works. Not a free gift is really explained to you. And so, I dabbled a little bit, checking out. I had a girlfriend that was a Mormon. Had some close friends that were Seventh-day Adventists. All these things were very interesting, but nobody could really satisfy what was going on inside of me about who's Jesus. There was never an answer for that. In about 1984, I went to Western Montana College to go to work. I met a man there named Dick Mandeville. I like to say his name. I haven't seen him in many, many years. But Dick Mandeville. And he was my boss. And he and I would just kind of word toss around sometimes. And he kind of knew where I was at and that I knew who God was, but I wasn't living the life that I should be living. I was trying to do everything in my own power. Everything. So Dick said, hey, every Wednesday, you and me, we're going to go out to this one place, kind of like a Shars, and we're going to go have lunch every Wednesday, and we'll talk about work, and then we'll have a Bible study. And I welcomed it, absolutely, because I was searching. I was constantly looking. And I said, I just have one request. I have a lot of questions, and I want you to make sure that you can help me with some of those questions. So, what's the Bible about? What's up with that? Is that some guy like, sat down like Moby Dick and wrote it? And I honestly, that's where I was coming from. I thought somebody just sat down and wrote the thing. And he goes, no, John. And then we looked at the history of that. And I was a history nerd. And so that appealed to me. And then the big questions start rolling around. Who is this Jesus? Who's this Christ, this Messiah? And Dick, through the Bible, starts to explain to me exactly who Jesus was. John, he's God. What? No, he's got to be some perfect human, doesn't he? It's like, no, John, here it is. And he through the book of Romans, he made me memorize Ephesians 2, the whole chapter, Ephesians 2. And boy, that really helped me as well, because it's not by your works, John. So no man can boast, brother. It's what Christ did on the cross. And that made a lot of sense now. Jesus was God. Because if you just hang some perfect human up on a cross, what good's that? But no, it's much more than that. So now it all started to fall into place for me. Accepting Christ, baptized March 1st, coming up. 1985 anniversary is coming up for that. So what was life like after accepting Christ? Okay, again, I wasn't a murderer, but now those things that I know are going on inside of here, before I was always fighting it on my own. A lustful thought, an envious or a covetousness that was going on inside of here. I knew it, and I never had the power on my own to do it and deal with it. But now I've got an ally. Now I've got somebody that I can appeal to. So let me give you, in my line of work, not just being a history teacher, but the last 5 years I've been a counselor. And I can't begin to tell you guys how many times I'm sitting in a classroom and I do not have the answer for that kid. That kid has asked me something, and it's going to be an interesting response if it's coming from me and what goes on inside of here. And so I'll say just a second prayer. Father, come on, man, help me out with this one. And an answer will come to me that does not come from me. I'm just telling you, I am not smart enough. I am not good enough to come up with that answer. And it's exactly what that kid needed. For the last 5 years, I've been counseling. Man, do I pray a lot. Because you need to. Because the kids that come to you, I do not have the answers to help them at all. Zero. So you say that prayer when that kid sits down and tells you their situation. And it's like, Father, you got to help me with this one. I have no clue what to say to this kid. And here comes the answer. And it's like, man, I got an ally. Because again, guys, I know what's going on in here, and it's not good. And I am not smart enough. I know my abilities, not smart enough. I do want to give you one specific example. It happened with I can't tell any kids, but I can tell one on my daughter. So, and this is a true story. So my daughter is working in Glendive, Montana. I think she's living the dream. She's making commercials for a company down in Glendive, Montana. Making bank, she's doing well. She gives me a call and says, I'm stopping all this. I'm going to move to New York. What? No, something's wrong here. You got to stay what you're doing. No, come pick me up. I've been working through her cousin, who's a producer out there, and I'm gonna make documentaries with him. So I go down to Glendive and I move my daughter back. And guys, what's going on is you're nuts. You're giving up a great job. Yeah, Glendive, whatever. But it's a great job. That's my nature. That's what's going on inside of here. So I move her home. All of her stuff comes home. She's gonna go, kind of go off and work with her cousin. And I think he was working for MTV station down in Utah at the time. And so she was going to run down, I guess, to Utah. And that's what was going to happen. And within 2 hours of her getting home and we get things unpacked, she gets a phone call from her cousin. True story. says, Abby, I can't hire you. I can't hire you because you're not a Utah resident, and the laws of making documentaries down there, the job that he was going to give her, she had to be a Utah resident. Abby was inconsolable. And that's not even talking about me. She was inconsolable. She's crying, wailing. And I wanted to say, this is my nature. Let's call it Glendive. I'll move you back. I can get the trailer loaded. Maybe they love you there. Come on, you dads know this, right? We can move you back there, sweetie. That's what this is saying in here. In here, that's what I'm saying. At that moment, I just paused, said, Father, what do I need to say to her to help her, to get her calmed down? And he says, whatever you do, don't say what you're going to say. You just simply tell her, John. And this happens to me all the time after my life with Christ. What you're going to tell her, this is not me talking. What you're going to tell her is, sweetie, it's going to be okay. What we're going to do here is we'll find something else. We'll make a plan, and we'll move forward from here. You can't go back. So, you're sure, man? That's what you want me to say. And he goes, absolutely, just tell her that. Everything will be fine. So I looked at her and said, Abby, I don't know what we're going to do, but I know we're not moving backwards. We're just going to go from this point, pray about it, and move forward. Boom. The crying stopped. She gets on the phone. Within an hour, she's got another great job. Yeah, that's the one that she had to go to New York for. But, it worked out. She spent a year out there, and everything was fine. I could not have done that on my own, guys. That's life with Christ. He helps you. You're not doing it in your own power. You're not doing it alone. That's where it's at. So, I didn't use my notes.
Thank God.
Yeah. Amen, brother. Yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to tell you. Life with Christ. You know, what life is like now, there's still stuff that goes on in here. I'm just not alone. Yeah.